right, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. I got it.
I can start.
Nope, not yet. Wait till I remove the flyer. I'm just letting it go.
All right, well, I'm gonna wait till the flyer removes and then I'm gonna jump in.
All right. Boom. All right, here we go.
Greetings and welcome to the All CNI. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to have everybody listening in and viewing in as we continue to purge forward with our socioeconomic plan to actually engage the audience with dialogue that will be conducive to sustain, scale, and start a profitable business. We have in our midst, once again, by popular demand, Mr. Brian Harvey and also Mr. Greg Baldwin, who in the last episode pointed out key features to what's required. We know what's possible, and they talked about that, and they also talked about what's required. Shifting your mindset, shifting your paradigm to be able to prepare yourself to purge forward with a profitable business idea or a business model. And we know that it all starts between your eyes. It has to start inside. And they actually hit key points such as overcoming fear and maintaining and sustaining focus and having purposeful, executable, and reasonable goals in which you can reach to get you to that point. Well, today we're going to revisit those ideas, but we're going to wrap them all in what we call the blueprint, how to get it done. Because most people want to know how can they start with an idea and a month later or 2 months later, they actually got a work in progress, a business model that was the result of their thinking. And when we talk about thinking, we're talking about purposeful thinking. We're talking about realistic thinking, because starting a business is more than just an idea. You have to make for certain that you have the right skill sets that are required and how to apply those skill sets. We're going to talk a lot about that here today. And we're also going to get an opportunity to acquaint ourselves with these two gentlemen that found it fit to take out from their busy schedules to share this information. I'm sure as we continue forward, you guys will definitely have your cups filled up. And they're going to talk about their stories, how they got to where they're at today. You know, and it wasn't by happenstance. It was about being diligent, being continuous, being able to hurdle over the obstacles that was in front of both of them in the start of their business, the continuation of their business, and the scaling of their businesses. So there are obstacles you have to hurdle. There are, you know, moments of rejection that you're going to have to deal with, because everything, you know, doesn't always work out the way you want it to. So you have to be able to modify and adjust swiftly, but we have to be able to do it profitably. And we're going to share a lot of that with you today, because when we look at what's taking place in today's marketplace, you know, I mean, it was said to me many years ago, adversity causes some people to break, others to break records. Are you a record breaker? You know, you have to ask yourself these things, because we look at, you know, this pandemic, some of us look at it as a sentence that's being imposed upon us where we can't move. But other people look at it as an opportunity to thrive. I mean, after every crisis, you know, that our country has faced, with adversity, there also comes a lot of opportunity. And since the lockdown began in the US, I mean, there's been nearly 100% growth in the e-commerce and retail revenue venues. I mean, lots of talented, qualified people are now available, whereas before they weren't. So now you can sit back and say, well, what can I do with this time? I have an idea about starting me a business. Well, you have to look at it in two ways. Number one, you have to be optimistic about your business model, but you definitely have to be pessimistic about your business model. Being optimistic is having a vision where you project where your business could possibly attain to or scale to. It's always good to have that vision. But being pessimistic is asking yourself the real hard questions, asking yourself and challenging yourself with all the things of why it won't work. And if you find that one outweighs the other, then you might have to go back to the drawing board and rethink your idea. Today, before the end of it, we're going to pinpoint a few different industries that are booming right now with this COVID. You know, a lot of people have ideas about business, but they go after a business that's not conducive to the times. So now with the shift and everything that's taking place, most businesses that we used to physically walk into, or we used to physically put together with the brick and mortar, now we're exercising that ability on a totally different platform, the e-commerce platform, the social media platform. And so now we need to understand how to do business differently and scale that business. Because, you know, a lot of people are looking for everything to go back to the way it was. Well, we can only deal with what's in front of us right now. So we have to adjust our business models or our ideas of business to deal with the circumstances, situations, and conditions that surround us now. Now, I would like to kind of give a backdrop of both of the panelists that I have on the show tonight, so that you kind of acquaint the listening audience with who you're about to hear from, because we're going to have some good dialogue and discussion. And again, this is a 2-hour special tonight. So get your pads and pens out, because there's going to be some information and a lot of good takeaways from this particular cipher that's going to take place. And I have the pleasure to introduce Mr. Brian Harvey, who's sitting in one of his offices now, the Tax Source Group. He has 4 or 5 physical locations. He has about 19 offsite locations. He's a business entrepreneur, real estate investor and developer, restaurant owner. Also, he's in the entertainment industry. He's about to unleash a product and service that's going to be available not just, you know, in one state, but throughout the United States, across the board. And I'm sure he's going to acquaint everyone who is plugging in right now with how that framework actually works. He's been very successful in business. And, you know, when I sit up and I talk to $1 million earners, when I talk to individuals who took it from start and continuing to grow, what I see is a lot of sweat equity with self-improvement. You know, the refining and remaking themselves, rebuilding themselves. A lot of people get stagnant and they stop growing. But I've watched, you know, both of these gentlemen grow and continue to grow and become multimillionaires. And that's a beautiful thing, you know, because you already got to have that in your mind. And you're going to be hearing from Mr. Harvey as he shares a lot of his business etiquette, what's required. Because today we're going to talk about, once again, on how to get it done from A to Z. And we also have in our midst Mr. Greg Baldwin, who's also a multi-million-dollar earner in the network marketing space, a real estate investor as well, because we do know real estate is a good venture to be a part of, but you got to know how to become a successful or profitable investor in real estate. A lot of people have an idea, okay, I'm just going to buy and flip homes. Well, it's an art to everything. And he's going to expose a little of that information here today. He's also a founder of a software company. He's launching a podcast as well, Gentleman Thug, and he's going to talk about that as well. You know, he's been blessed with family. Both of these gentlemen have been blessed with family that support them. And what I love best about both of these gentlemen is that they own their time. See, that's vitally important. Being able to get your time back and get on the other side of money, to where it's not just a want. It's not just that you're infused with it and consumed with attaining it, but you've gotten to the other outside of it, and now you have your time back. You're no longer plugged into the framework of the 40/40 plan, which most of the bands of society, not that it's a bad thing, it's just that a lot of times we stay stuck in a situation thinking that it's going to avail us all that we need to live our dreams. But oftentimes we find out that we come up short. And what I mean by the 40/40 plan, I mean that we work 40 hours for 40 years. And then we retire on half of what we were struggling with our whole life. And all our glorious years, all our glorious hours were absorbed creating the dreams of someone else. If you can work for a business and improve it, then it's all about making the sacrifice to take that same skill set that you have and do it for yourself. Now, is everybody going to be a business owner? Absolutely not. But can you be successful as a business owner? Absolutely, you can. You first have to see yourself there, but you know what's going to be required. And a lot of times we fall, and sometimes we fall by climbing. But the good part is being able to get back up, dust yourself off, and move forward. Are you resilient enough to attain that? And what brings me to some of the topics tonight is when you start to ask yourself some of these challenging questions in terms of ways that it won't work. But you have to be honest with yourself. You know, you got to ask yourself, well, what qualifies me to execute this ideal of this business model? Being pessimistic about your business model, you know, understanding, well, you know what, will it work? Will it not work? You know, we have to shake the fence. Everything can't be, you know, peachy and rosy. Sometimes we got to look at the thorns and address them head on. Oftentimes in business, we sugarcoat it, and then we wonder why we fall into the pit holes. See, if you overcome a lot of the obstacles early, then you'll have a smooth transition later on. But most times than many, we're afraid to do that. And then you have to ask yourself, well, why you? Why should it be you? What qualifies you, and why now? In today's marketplace, why now? Why start a business now? What's your reason for it? What's your why for doing this? I mean, what can you bring to the marketplace now that doesn't already exist? You don't want to duplicate something that's already going on because you get lost in the crayon box of a box of orange crayons. Just because it's different manufacturers, it's still an orange crayon. You want to have something different, you know, and why should people buy from you? You know, I mean, what's your niche? What's so unique about your ideal or your brand that you're going to bring to the table? What requires your business model to be looked upon by others that they might be feel impelled to patronize it? You know, who are your competitors? Have you did your due diligence? Have you looked at the different challenges that you might face with your competitors? What are they doing that you're not? What would you do different that they're already doing? What makes your ideal better than theirs? I mean, and when we don't do these things, ladies and gentlemen, we do ourselves a disservice. We have ideas, but we don't put in the proper planning to execute fully those ideals to get the result or the desired end that we truly want. So you always got to begin with the end in mind. And, you know, a lot of times we say, well, during this pandemic, during this time, well, you know what, I'm just going to start me a business on Facebook. I'm just going to use the internet. You know, I'm going to use that for my advertisements. But then you have to ask yourself these questions, you know, do you know how to run the ads? What's your target or your audience? I mean, do you know how to build a funnel? I mean, do you know how to write copy? I mean, do you know how to email sequence? I mean, you have to ask yourself these types of questions because we see other people on the social media platform who are, you know, who monetize their platforms and now are making monies and profits. But they had to learn certain skills and abilities to be able to do this. So what I'm saying is, if you have not done what's required to look at all of the things that your business won't be able to work, then possibly you're not ready to start a business. It's just an idea. So we need substance to understand on how to move it from step A to step Z and understand all in between the hills and valleys and kind of fill it up so you can have a smooth transition all the way through. So without further ado, I would like to open the floor up for dialogue, but before I do that, I want the listening audience to get more acquainted, with who we have on this panel, Mr. Brian Harvey, business mogul, and Mr. Greg Baldwin, business mogul. These gentlemen, have proven time after time their resilience and tenacity to continue to purge forward, despite of the hurdles, the obstacles, the walls, the lack of, or whatever means, the sources of capital. They kept going. They went around their elbows to get to their throne. If one thing didn't work, they tried something else. It was said it was, to the light bulb, it was 1,000 tries before it finally worked. Colonel Sanders started later on in years. So a lot of times people say, well, I'm too old to get something going. Or, it won't work for me. Well, if you think it won't work, then guess what? It won't work. As a man thinketh, so is he. See, a thought is the cause of it all. So obviously, these gentlemen were already thinking on a different level, and they became the message that they bring. And, Brian, just looking, and Greg, anyone you guys can jump in at any time, but just looking at, what's required. A lot of times we look at businesses and we say, okay, well, what do I need to do first? Is assuming the name or getting your business registered, figuring out if it's going to be an S Corp, a LLC, a corporation, doing business as. How are we going to do it? If we incorporate it, it's going to be a domestic or foreign corporation. How do we do this? How do we scale? What would you say, guys, that would be the first thing that you would do to engage a business? What's the first thing?
Well, the first thing, if you don't mind, first and foremost, James, thank you once again for having me on this particular live podcast meeting, things of that nature. But the first thing is knowing your why, in terms of why do you want to start a business? And I could say for me personally, I realized early on that I just wasn't mentally fit to work for anyone else. And so I was looking for ways in my early 20s after leaving college. I went in the corporate rat race because, like I said in the earlier podcast that we had done, my father was a branch manager for IBM in the 80s. And so that was the route that I was going to go, and stepped upon some things and realized that there is a way, and it's something that people don't even consider, that there is a way to own your time. And once I was abreast of that, I began doing my due diligence, and I got into the network marketing space and climbed up there. And I'll elaborate on that more. But the bottom line is your why. Everyone wants to know how. And the people that know how to do anything work for the people that know why they're doing it. And it wasn't just about money for me. It was about freedom, real freedom that I wanted to have. Because I had read something some years ago by, I think it was Buckminster Fuller, and he was talking about humans are so intelligent, but we're the only animals on the face of the planet that has to work a job to justify our own existence. And so he found that to be something kind of odd, that we're, as human beings, we're not just here to just basically work to pay bills, have kids, and then die off of half of what we couldn't afford to live off of working a regular corporate job. So knowing why is the first reason. And in my businesses and my life are separate. They're two different things.
Okay, so you got to separate the two.
You have to separate the two. So my business is like an organism. It's made up of systems that have its own integrity that work synergistically together for a certain outcome. And that outcome is to find customers, okay? and to also keep those customers as well. And so that's the main thing, knowing why and separating those two out. That's what I would start off with. And if we can elaborate more, I'll let Brian, add if he wants to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great, guys. Once again, thanks, brother James Bay, for having me. I love being
No
here.
doubt.
Brother. I appreciate you, brothers. Nation, I appreciate the information that we discussed before even coming on live. I'm still full off a lot of that information and dialogue, man. So
Absolutely.
you guys, man, and I thank you for everything sincerely. But I think this is a great subject tonight in respect to business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Everyone know that, and my philosophy is that every individual should own their own business, right? But we know that that's not reality. That's not reality because everyone is not going to own their own business because everyone don't want to do the work that it takes to operate your own business. And of course, being in a business that you're able to scale, that you're able to teach, that you're able to build upon is very important. And, oftentimes we want to get in business for a lot of the wrong reasons. And everybody got their different reasons to why they want to get in business. Just like Brother Greg talked about the why. Why do you want to get in business?
Mm-hmm.
The why is the most important part to the start.
Mm-hmm.
The why is because the why is what you have to live with. The why is going to be the gas that go in the tank that push your business along. The why is the reason why when them tough times come, when you can't move forward, that why is what push you. And the why for me, coming from where I grew up at, it was important to me to be successful.
Okay.
Growing up in the area that I grew up in, drug infested, gang infested, a lot of people that are struggling, a lot of people wanted a lot of things for themselves, and it was two things that was advertised during that time. Either a drug dealer or you're gonna go to college. Those was the two things that was produced during that time. So a lot of young guys, unfortunately, didn't have the parents in the home to push them academically or an educational push. So a lot of information and manhood and focus came from the street. So these are roses that grew from the bricks.
Okay.
Oftentimes roses is put in the dirt to grow. But see, when you become a rose that grow out of bricks, that's a different way that you was watered. So it's a different endurance that you have, a different focus that you have. And that focus is that you're going to win by any means necessary.
Okay.
It's very important to understand that because it's different individuals that grow out of different environments, which produce different fruits, right? And sometimes we look at certain individuals and we ask, again, we report back to the why. Why are you doing this? And all the answers is in the why, right? It's just like when a woman have a baby, right? And after the baby is born, right, they going back into the woman to get all the ingredients.
Mm-hmm. The nourishment, absolutely.
All the nourishments was there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the why.
That's the why.
That's where everything is in there, in the real afterbirth.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So all the nutrition is everything. That is what that why is. So when you guys focused on that why, it really resonated with me and it was extremely important because no matter how many times you hear that, you always report back to your why. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes as you get further up the road, you wonder, did my why change? Because some people why do change. The why can turn into greed now. The why can turn into being.
You said it can turn into greed?
It can turn into many different things.
Okay.
It can change. And that's why I focus on, and I say to myself, and a lot of my prayers be to Almighty God is to stay focused. And the focus ain't just focusing on just money. It's just focused on maintaining a certain mindset
Mm-hmm.
a great deal of appreciation and gratitude while you're on your journey.
Okay.
So I think when anybody is getting ready to start a business, which I definitely promote, rally, support, love when individuals want to start a business and want to get into that space to own their own time, as you brothers spoke about, and to be able to build something that they're proud of, something that'll make their parents proud, right? That's the real investment, is how you can empower others with the energy that you put on the earth. So the things
Absolutely.
you do, is so contagious and it's so important. And it's a place where, as Black men, you have to be responsible in that space. It's important for us to empower one another because there's no one else on this earth that's sitting, planning to empower you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to empower one another to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. And owning a business is what unites us. That's how you get a united brother, because now you share this same common goal, this goal to be successful, this goal to employ people, this goal to help elevate people to get to the next level. That's the responsibility in entrepreneurship. That's the true responsibility. So you don't necessarily have to just focus on the money. The money have no choice but to come if you do the work.
Right.
So
Exactly.
when you really change your focus and you start focus on more so building people up, building individuals by way of example of your work, start to work intelligently, work hard, connecting, uniting with other brothers, getting involved in certain projects, partnering, and things of that nature. That's very important because you can be in business for yourself, but you don't necessarily have to be in business for
By yourself.
and
Right.
by yourself.
And by yourself. Absolutely.
It's extremely important. And that's the thing that I find that's very important on this whole entrepreneur journey that a lot of times often people forget is how to partner. Is
Right.
how to partner. And I think that would be an excellent subject matter for you, Brother James Bey, to bring some brothers back on this panel and really discuss, and we can go off into it tonight as well, but how to properly partner,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as you guys spoke about in respect to starting a business, all that rolls back into how you start a business, what vehicle you put the business in to move the business forward. So some brothers say, well, oh, I'm not getting into business with that person because I don't want them taking my money. I don't want them doing this. Well, you don't understand business. Can't nobody take your money in business if you understand business, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's why we have attorneys. That's why we have agreements, right? That's why we put the business in a particular vehicle. When I say vehicle, talking about a particular corporation that protects you, that protects your assets.
And,
right?
and spinning off on that, that's kind of getting back to the framework of when we're looking at how we're going to format this business. We understand, well, we got to have a why. It's agreed across the board. We got to have a why. Why do we want to do this? Okay. And of course, all those other components come into play. But most people, after you get past your reason why you want to do this, because Brian, you're saying, okay, well, you got to ideally pinpoint, how you're going to establish it. You got your reason as to why. What would you say would be the next thing that needs to be showcased for your energy? What would be step two? Step one is you got to have a reason why. What would you say would be step two?
Well, to me, let me step in here if you don't mind. Once you have your reason, why, then from there, what I would say to approach your business, I don't care what it is. I don't care what your business is, online or offline. You want to treat your business like it's the prototype that has 3,000 other ones following the exact same prototype, almost like a franchise model is something that you want to have with your business. I think a lot of times people are just willy-nilly with their business, and that's a hustle. A real business is systematized. And when you look in the marketplace around the world, most of the revenue that's being generated around the world, it's up some type of franchise. Just ride down your street and you'll see franchises everywhere, whether it's Midas, whether it's McDonald's, whether it's a restaurant, whatever the case may be. Whatever your business is, your very first business, when you started off, you want to begin with the end in mind, like it's a prototype for 3,000, just like it, not kind of like it, but just like it. That's number one. Number two, then what you want to do is make sure it's providing consistent value. Okay. For those of you that are taking notes, provide consistent value to your customers, your clients, your lenders. Okay. Your employees. That's something that you want to do. Okay. Number three, you want to make sure that the person with the lowest skill levels can operate your business. In other words, when you look at a lot of these franchises out here, whether it's McDonald's or anything like that, you have teenage kids running a multi-billion-dollar business because they've simplified the process. So you want to make sure that people with the lowest skill level can run your business as well. That's something that you want to consider. So there's steps to, how to make this thing happen. You also want to make sure, number four, it has impeccable order, meaning that if there's a problem, that you have great customer service, that you go ahead and you get that problem resolved as quickly as possible. Otherwise, they're going to go elsewhere to find something, to get done. And then the next and final step is make sure that all the work that has to be done in your business is in some type of manual or some type of training module so that all the employees and people understand how this thing actually operates. And you can take this and apply it to anything, whether you're online or offline. The first thing is understand whatever your business idea is, that it has to be a prototype for 3,000 others like it. Even if you don't plan on opening up a second, third, or fourth, make sure that you have that foundation set because you have it set for scale. Absolutely. If it blows up. And that's what I would do. And that's how I approach my businesses. Okay.
So that's a 5-point plan. Mm-hmm. Something brief, straight to the point that can be applied to virtually any business model.
Any business model.
Yeah. Any business model, online or offline, have those things in mind because you want to have that residual effect. And Absolutely. What I'm hearing from both of the gentlemen is starting with the end in mind, first having the why, and then scaling and understanding how to basically establish it with having the vision, knowing that what you're putting it forth as if this is the prototype for others soon to follow.
Absolutely.
Even if it doesn't.
Right. Even if it doesn't, like, for instance, I have a friend of mine. He's from the Middle East. He has a restaurant here, the best gyros in town. I mean, he has great food. Right. But he was sick and he wasn't able to be there in the kitchens, but he had to keep those doors open and no one was able to cook the food like he was able to cook the food.
Right.
And so when people come to your establishment and they expect a certain flavor, and that's talking about that consistency and value. If you go to McDonald's and you get the different tasting French fries every time you go, you're going to stop going to there, even though I don't eat McDonald's. But to make a long story short, I asked him if he ever considered opening up other businesses because I thought I would invest with him if he was willing to do something like that. But I quickly realized that he didn't put in place, he's not able to duplicate his ability to cook what he's able to cook. I mean, it's very, very good food. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's so important to have something that even if you only have one establishment, whether it's online or offline, begin with the end in mind as if it's something that you can scale and have 3,000 just like it.
Something duplicatable.
Absolutely.
Being able to have something, and like you say, and both of you said, having something kind of systematic to where as a fool wouldn't err. You got your manual, you got your set of instructions on what to do. You got to give great customer service because one thing I do know, and I've visited a lot of businesses, and from the beginning, I mean, whoever the face of that business is, if they come up and they're not courteous, if they're not hospitable, if they're not warm, if they're not open and genuinely for real, oftentimes that just will turn me away. Attitude has a lot to do with what comes through your doors or how people will want to patronize you. You got to treat people right, and you got to be able to have different things in place, like both of you guys are saying, to be able to encompass that. So we got to start again with the end in mind, knowing your why, having a 5-point plan. It doesn't have to be nothing long and elaborate. Of course, when you start to get in the total development of your business, when you're talking about scaling and things of this sort, what these gentlemen are doing, that they're bringing things down into a nutshell. But do understand, there's still a lot of work required in between. He broke it down into 5 points, but we're still talking about you still got to have your 30, 60, 90-day business plan, your 1 year, your 3 year, your 5 year, because see, you're not setting up just to set up for today and tomorrow. You're setting up for long-term residual returns on your efforts today.
If you know your why,
saying?
that's how you should do it.
Absolutely.
If you know your why, that's how you should do it. And I think oftentimes people, they don't get into businesses because it seems so complicated. And it's not that it's complicated, it just requires tenacity and work and effort. But business is about a system and being able to leverage a system in some form or fashion. And I think, even Brian understands that more than most.
Yeah, because obviously you got a system, Brian, because I mean, when you started, because you basically got a franchise with your tax source group. You got 4 offices. I mean, don't you have a system in place? And I mean, how did you scale that?
Absolutely. I mean, just like Brother Greg was saying, it's about simplifying the business. So like he said, the person with the least amount of skills can run and operate the business. That's overly important. And it's a company that we all pass every day. You have to take in consideration of their business model and how they run and operate their business and the choice of employees that they choose to do so, which shows that their business is simplified and it's a multi-billion-dollar business, as Greg spoke about, and that's McDonald's. Don't go into business and do not study McDonald's. Study their whole business model, how they operate, their marketing, how they employ individuals. But most importantly, what surrounds all that gives all of that, the brick and mortar, the jail, if you will, is the simplicity. You can't scale a business that's difficult. Mm-hmm. Like Brother Gary spoke about the brother that was, when they go into the restaurant, the only way that they get the meal that they desire if he was there. See, that's when someone owns their own job. Right. Mm-hmm. It's a difference if you want to open up a business and you want to own your own job. Those two different things. Oftentimes people get those confused, and it's easy to get into the space where you own your own business, right? And a lot of times individuals who own their own business, they have a problem delegating. They have trust issues, mm-hmm. right? And that's something that you have to develop and put qualified people in place, right? But most importantly, you as the owner, leader of that business, you got to have a system that's followed. You got to be able to follow your system. And the simplicity is overly important when building a business. Other than that, if you don't build a system, you build a job for yourself.
That's worse than having a job.
That's worse than having a job. You end up building a job for yourself.
Absolutely.
And another very important aspect of building a business that I know a lot of people that's in the audience that's thinking about and thoughts running through their head. Some people have a great idea, very intelligent, but they say, hey, I don't have the money.
Okay, how do we get that capital?
Right, to start a business. What I want to say to individuals who feel like you don't have enough money, the most important aspects to starting a business is your idea. And when you believe in your idea, the money have to catch up with your idea, and it will, right? Do not start a business without creating a business plan. And when I say a business plan, I'm talking about a professional business plan to understand how your business is going to operate from A to Z. Extremely important, because this is the blueprint and how in which your business will run. So you will be able to go back in different areas of this business plan and perfect certain areas, because the goal is for this thing to run efficiently, right? And another aspect a component that you have to add to when running and operating a business, getting started with your business. You want to invest in professional pitch decks, right? So
expound upon what a pitch deck is.
A pitch deck is a deck, information about your company, be it for banks, for investors, and just for simply information that you want to put out into the public. And oftentimes, us as a people, when we get into business, we don't go that route. This is a very, very important route to getting funded, right? So you may have a great idea, business plan, all that, but add a pitch deck. You can look online for companies. They got free pitch deck templates, things like that. But I recommend getting with a company that specializes in business pitch decks for your industry.
Okay.
For your industry, right? So they'll create a pitch deck, a banking pitch deck, a pitch deck for investors, or an informational pitch deck, right? So you put enough information together in the right order and have your credentials together, you can go get funded for your business. This is extremely important.
So is
And a
this,
lot of
Brian,
times
is this like crowdfunding? Is this like because I'm fascinated by that. This is like a crowdfunding kind of thing where you put it out there and people go to this website and they can decide to invest in your idea on this pitch deck?
Well, it's not a platform where individuals would necessarily just come to this particular platform and invest in your business.
Okay.
A pitch deck, like for example, if you got a banker, right? So you've been banking at this particular institute for a while, you're putting money in the bank, right? You want this bank to believe in you and invest in you, right?
Okay.
So when you go to present your business or idea, they're used to seeing it in a form of a pitch deck.
Gotcha.
Okay.
This is what they use. This is what they look at.
Mhm.
And so you go
The
in there and say,
performance
oh,
and all that.
I got a 700 credit score. I want to borrow some money. Or you go in there looking for a small business loan, all these things. And that's the reason why often we don't get properly funded, because we don't properly present ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? So present yourself right. Get your business up to par. Make sure the industry that you're in, that your business look like it belongs there. Get out of that whole mom and pop look. Fix it up. Dress it up. If you're gonna do this, you might as well do it right.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just Google pitch decks, learn about pitch decks. I think it will fascinate a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people in business, provided that you never utilize a pitch deck for funding purposes or to let people know about your business. And you will learn a lot about yourself, a lot about your business, the industry, and most importantly, how to run and operate your business. And then start to look for individuals that have been in your industry for a while, right? And find you someone that you can rely on. And individuals that you can rely on that's in the business, right? So we all need mentors.
It's like a mentor.
A great mentor that's in the industry you're pursuing. Because it's like anyone, you look at some of them old contractors, right? Old contractors like a brick masonry, right? I watched several of these guys. I hired a lot of them when building homes and renovating homes and things of that nature. And these guys come over there and get the job done. And half the time, the average cat will come over there and get it done, right? Because they've been in it long enough that they have learned the tricks to the trade, right? It's tricks to the trade. It's certain information and techniques that they have. So that's the reason why you want a mentor, so you can hone in on how they do it, why they do it. What technique do they use? What relationships do they utilize? These is very important ingredients to building a great business. Unfortunately, us as a people, and I always got to report back to this, and I'm gonna play the devil advocate a little bit in this, we don't like to share information. Think we're gonna be the richest one sitting on the top of the hill, all alone, because we don't want to share information. I will share it all.
Absolutely.
Deep blueprint.
You can't keep what you have until you give it away.
Exactly. And some brothers will watch you get rich and be upset on the sideline.
Talk about it.
Watch you get rich
Mhm.
and be upset on the sideline when all they had to do was pick up the phone. I advertise my phone number out there, my resources I have,
Mhm.
right? I'm a wealth of information. And guess what? I'm going to share it. I ain't going to die with
Absolutely.
it. I'm going to share it. And it's very important. But you got to get out of your own way to get to the right way. And that's
Absolutely.
important in business.
Absolutely.
Don't be
And-
so foolish that you trip over yourself,
Mhm.
right? Not being mindful of what you need. Reach out, because whatever you need or whatever gonna come to you, it's gonna come why and by of another man or another woman with God's permission.
Absolutely.
That's the only
Absolutely.
way you're gonna get the information. The key is get the information. So
Absolutely.
therefore you can move accordingly.
Absolutely.
Right? So don't get all clogged up in your head. Don't let the devil go skinny dipping in your mind, and you get to wasting time when you have spent 5 years with a problem. That's all you had to do was pick up the phone to get the information. Don't be foolish out there.
So a lot of times pride can get in the way.
And
Pride and the lack of information, you know, and how you can eliminate a lot of that is like you say, a lot of times we get in business and we only think of just ourselves. I'm the boss. The buck stops with me. I don't need nobody to tell me nothing. And oftentimes when you're that type of way, you know, you're not allowing nothing to come in, then nothing's going out. There's no reproduction going on. There's no planting. There's no sowing. There's no reaping, because you think you know it all. But one of the main key things that I heard both of you say, and I definitely concur, you definitely got to have a mentor. It's always good to surround yourself with individuals in business who are more successful than you, because you can learn something from them. You know, I've heard it being said before that if it's 9 broke people and you're hanging around 9 broke people, then you're going to be the 10th one, you know, because it's a mindset. You know, I'm not saying you got to recruit up.
And not to cut you off on that, brother, I just want to share this and that. Be comfortable with a black man knowing the way. Be comfortable with that, because once we share the information and really dialogue, right, we will come up with the perfect route, with the perfect way to get to where we're trying to go and what we're trying to accomplish together. And that's so important. A lot of times in business, it's 2 things that any business have that we spoke about on the last show, and that's a service or a product, right?
Mhm.
So if you have a service, you're in the service of business. So you're looking for clients to service, right? And you want to maintain a great reputation in doing so in business. Now, in business, things happen. Things happen. So it's going to be some days where you just do not show up and put your best foot forward as you should do every day. But we have these days, right?
Absolutely.
So when that happened, and what led me to this, because I had a conversation with someone earlier, and he called me and he was upset in his business about some things that had occurred. When we got off the phone, it was like, you just need to make a phone call and apologize. You're looking for all these other answers and other ways to avoid from just being apologetic. Sometimes it's just that simple in business. Sometimes you just need to just apologize for certain things that you may have did or didn't do, and you move on. You learn and you move on. But sometimes you can waste so much time in your mind, right? Making a problem this big into something this big overnight, when you can simply just apologize. And it's just very important. And I think the psychological aspect that a lot of individuals go through, it have to be addressed when starting a business. Because when you're in business, psychologically, you're going to deal with so many different emotions, so many different personalities, so many different people, and you got to become very thick-skinned when doing so. And that's one reason why a lot of people don't make it in business. When you often talk with people, you ain't seen in a couple of years and they had a business, you always pose a question, hey, so what's going on? Are you still doing what you were doing? Are you still doing it? Oh, and I'm not doing that anymore, man. I just couldn't really deal with the people.
Mm-hmm.
I really couldn't do this. I really couldn't deal with that. So that have to be addressed. I watch a lot of people go out of business because they couldn't tolerate their clients, right? And the key to doing business, as far as tolerating your clients, you have to teach people how to do business with you.
You got to be able to modify as well.
Absolutely.
Have the type of framework that's not so stringent to whereas you don't have no ability to modify. But let me just jump in right quick, because what I want to do is I want to open the floor up for the audience, because I know last time, we had some questions on deck. We were able to answer a few of them, but a few of them got away from us. But the floor is open for anybody on our listening audience that would like to have a question to either one of these gentlemen to tackle. I do know that there is one question in the queue now. One of the questions was, so would you say the first step in starting a business or entrepreneurship is to be mentally prepared? It's more or less a question statement, but
prepared.
Go ahead.
You say to be mentally prepared is the question? Was that the question?
Yeah, and in starting a business or being an entrepreneur, they're saying the first step, are you saying, basically what the dialogue we're having, are you saying that is the first step is to be mentally prepared?
I think it's more importantly, spiritually prepared. And that's where your why is, as well. The practicality of building a business is really, really simple. I mean, it's really mathematical at that moment in time, but the why is the premise, and it's understanding what makes your heart sing, what makes you feel like what's your life purpose, if you will. That's what's so important. Your why. For me, it was freedom. I love to travel. I love being with my family. I love meeting new people. I love learning. I love growing. I didn't want to spend my life, every waking moment, worrying about money. And I think that's something that a lot of people deal with. And so I would say your why, and does it take mental toughness and acuity? Absolutely. That's in anything. Just to live, it takes some kind of mental toughness. But like I stated at the top, your why is the most important thing. And that should fuel your mentality in terms of moving forward, in life from that standpoint, and doing anything from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm. And also, some other interjection came in, when identifying your business model, after you got that why, the vision, like I was stating in the onset, being optimistic and being pessimistic as well, being able to challenge yourself to do better. But when we're actually putting together that business model, there's a lot of different formats and structures for that business model. I mean, you can be an incorporation, you can be an LLC, a S Corp, a sole proprietor, doing business as. Some people may want to start their infrastructure up under a grant or 501c3 or 501c7. You got a lot of social clubs, you got a lot of different business platforms and or entities, and people need to understand the differences and how to framework their business conducively to that. Because another thing is we always got to be in compliance. The laws, the statutes, the policy, be them state or federal, whatever your business is doing, you want to be in compliance so you don't run into any walls there. As Brian was talking about, you got to be prepared to be able to, have the knowledge, and not just try to act like you know it all. Sometimes you need a business coach, somebody that's going to coach you through the process, because some people have not really dealt with bigger ventures in terms of business. Some people may have started with a small mom and pop shop, but it blew up into something different. And they had to quickly, be able to align themselves with the right individuals to help scale that business. But of course, having the right infrastructure, ideally for your business. So that requires not only, after the reason why, But as Brian was talking about putting your business plan together, it's going to bullet point those types of things, so that you would know exactly how it's formatted, what policies, what laws, what things that your business is going to be in congruence with, and you got to definitely, know exactly what's going on in the marketplace. A lot of people have great ideas about business and they get behind their ideas, but they don't do the due diligence that's required. And then they get out there in the real business sector and get swallowed up, okay, or run out of funding. But Brian, he brought something real, an important piece, because a lot of people need capital. A lot of people need funding. It's one thing to have an idea, but it's another thing to bring it into fruition. It's going to take some finance. You're going to need something to fund it, to put gas in the tank so it can move. What he's saying is, okay, you get this pitch deck, okay, that pitch deck can be used to be able to get a loan from the bank, okay, to be able to pitch it to some potential investors who may partner with you because they share that same vision. Or if you're just giving out some information to kind of sift through the marketplace to identify maybe some bankers or some other people, you just want to give them general information about it, but you can have a pitch deck of some degree that kind of presents that business for you to the right people when you're seeking sources of funding, because funding is key for any business. You got to have some money, and a lot of times people take all the money that they have, all the cash that they have, and use it. And if it falls out, they're stuck. So now we have to understand how to find and identify other sources to fund your business that doesn't necessarily has to do with your money. Being able to use other people's money. I mean, we talked about on the second episode, credit worthiness, how to, understand how that process works. A lot of people don't know how to use the credit. You got business credit and you got personal credit. Yes. Totally two different animals, and I'm sure, Brian, you could talk to a little bit about that in terms of when you're getting your credit score, let's say for your business, to be able to utilize maybe that pitch deck, as you call it. How does that credit score differ from a personal credit score? I mean, how does that differ?
Well, personal credit, business credit, just like you stated, James, is totally two different animals. Yes, it is. They kind of operate in the same fashion, which is your ability to pay back, right? So they view and look at your credit profile and looking for your ability to pay back, that you demonstrate a great payer, right? So that worked on your social security number with your personal credit, and we got TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian that governs that, right? That creates the scoring system to let lenders know if you're worthy to lend to, or at what level can they lend to you. On the business side, they look at the EIN number that you apply for when opening up a business, right? And that EIN number then becomes, just view it as the business social security number, okay? So it's all the activity that
the EIN stands for employment identification number, correct?
Absolutely, yes, employee identification number. So that's how the IRS identify you as a business, is through your EIN number, right? That you can apply for. And you can simply go on the IRS.gov website and apply for an EIN number after registering your business, and then going on to apply for an EIN number. And after you do that, another very, very important entity to utilize is Dun & Bradstreet. Dun & Bradstreet governs business credit, right? Which is considered a paydex score, right? So the goal is to build your credit up, which is your credit worthiness, right? And utilize this company, Dun & Bradstreet. Now, a lot of times, and a lot of individuals I get an opportunity to speak to had never heard of Dun & Bradstreet and what they do. So I often always forward them information. So about time we meet, they understand totally what Dun & Bradstreet do, how this company perform. Most importantly, how can this company be a benefit to my growth and development in business?
Mhm.
And how do they operate and perform? It's extremely important. Well, Dun & Bradstreet is a data company. That's first to understand, right? And we look at some of their key clients, right? United Airlines, American Express, all the major Fortune 500 companies utilize them for information. For information. For example, American Express, when they're looking at their A paper, and let's look at how it's graded. And let me just back up for a moment, because oftentimes I talk with individuals and I say, do you have a DUNS number? They say, oh yeah, I do have a DUNS number. And
that'll be the Dun & Bradstreet number?
The Dun & Bradstreet, meaning that you have subscribed to Dun & Bradstreet, or you have not subscribed but been issued a number.
Exactly.
Because you may have done business with another company that's a Dun & Bradstreet member, and they shared your information with Dun & Bradstreet, provided y'all business interactions or transaction.
Mhm.
So at that point, Dun & Bradstreet will go ahead and issue you a number once they see that you're not in the database and you don't have a number. So some companies have a DUNS number and unaware of it, right? So then the key is to get with Dun & Bradstreet, get with one of the representatives, right? And become a member of Dun & Bradstreet, subscribe to them. Most
So you
importantly,
subscribe to Dun & Bradstreet.
subscribe to Dun & Bradstreet. Most importantly, you want to subscribe to their credit booster program to boost your business credit. This is extremely important. This is how you can expedite the process and started building credit at a rapid speed and understanding the things that you can do. For example, if you're in business, be it you're a home-based business or you're a brick and mortar business or you simply an online business, all business have expenses. If you have a website you're hosting, you got business phone number. If you have utilities in the business name, you can report all of these transactions to Dun & Bradstreet, right? They reach out to them companies, verify that information, and now all your on-time payments start to build your credit worthiness with Dun & Bradstreet, which entails start to build you a credit score with a commercial credit score on your EIN number, which is called your payday score, right? So you can start building that just by having a building. Now you got you have your utilities, your lights, your gas, your cell phone, right? If you have a vehicle in the business name, right? And all of your vendors who you're trading with and doing business with, you're able to give that information to Dun & Bradstreet as well. They're able to record those interactions and those transactions.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
A lot of business are in business and they have all of this, but they're not organized or they don't have the information on how to properly organize their business. So now they can't even reap the benefit. So that's what we want to share with a lot of listeners out there today. Please get involved with Dun & Bradstreet. Get your business interactions and transactions recorded so they can
So
be.
once they get them recorded, I mean, when they finally get their number from their DUNS number, then they request for the credit booster program with Dun & Bradstreet.
Absolutely. They want to get, well, first you want to get you a representative and get you a representative. When you get a representative, ask that representative for their cell phone number, their email number, which they're going to provide all that information to you. But most importantly, get their phone number so you can start to build the relationship with that individual. So when you need certain things, let me give you an example of how Dun & Bradstreet work. Let's say whatever industry you're in, right? Say you're in the medical industry, you sell medical supplies. You happen to get in that business. You're able to call Dun & Bradstreet and tell them to pull up all of the companies, right, that's out there that need your services, right? So if you sell suppliers that need your services, right, you can pay Dun & Bradstreet. They will send you a download of all the information, meaning the contact number, the person who makes the decision, everybody. So now you're not necessarily cold calling, right? Because you have a name of an individual who make the decision, right? So therefore you can go off and better sell and pitch your service,
Right.
to be able to sell your products. That's how Dun & Bradstreet work. Remember, they are a data company. For example, again, another example, American Express. American Express only get a paper from Dun & Bradstreet. A paper means when you're extremely transparent. When you give Dun & Bradstreet all the members that's associated in your business, how many employees you have, how many contractors you have, how much money you made. So you hand over your business returns. You expose all your business. So now, when companies like American Express them come through and buy all their A paper, that's how you receive the American Express in the mail, already pre-approved and ready to go.
Okay, that's how that works.
Purchase that data from there to be able to get that card to you, and they already pre-approved it because they already see your Dun & Bradstreet number. They already see your credit worthiness, so you could go to them. Another example. If you go to Dun & Bradstreet, you're working on a project. You say, you know what, this particular project, I'm gonna need $3 million to fulfill this project. Guess what? They will locate the people who have the money for you.
Well, that's a good thing there, man. Now we got some questions coming in. I'm gonna get back to that, but that's what we need in terms of when the people are listening and they're saying, well, has my business even gotten to the level where I need to be asking for a Dun & Bradstreet number? Remember, guys, we're starting with the end in mind. Just like Greg said early on, started with the prototype, knowing that, you know, you're going to start 3,000 more businesses. And I definitely commend you, Brian, for that information. That was some key information. And I hope you guys are taking notes on this stuff, you know, as it's being formatted and as it's coming out. We're going to reiterate a lot of it as we continue to go forward. But we got a few questions popping up as you were speaking. And this question here, they were asking this to Greg. They said, how do you deal with discouragement when things do not go as planned, especially in the early stages?
I mean, that's part of it. You know, there's something that I would encourage people to be around, people that sharpens them and encourages them to keep moving forward. John C. Maxwell said it best, that failure is fertilizer for success. And so it's just some no's. It's just keep moving forward, you know, and that's all I can tell you. I mean, if your why is strong enough, then you're going to be able to overcome discouragement. I can tell you there was moments in time where I lost sleep, building my businesses and things of that nature. That's just par for the course. There's no way of getting around it, but your why should make you cry. Your why should build that fortitude that no matter what happens, I'm going to continue to move forward with it, especially if you believe in your vision. A lot of people don't really believe in their vision. It's just an idea, but a vision will give you the necessary precision and continue to move forward and cut through it like butter over time.
Okay. And then it says, well, how much more difficult would you say, because they're popping in left and right, how much more difficult would you say it is to start a business now during the pandemic?
I think that it's not as difficult. Here's the thing about the pandemic, the way in which I see it, and I saw this coming years ago before the pandemic in terms of the online space. I think what the online space did, it made it a little bit simpler where you didn't need as much capital to start a business. I mean, but the whole idea is being able to look at the various venues online, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook and other social media platforms, as today's NBC, CBS's and things of that nature, Nickelodeon. These are our channels. You can really create a brand and create your own channel online like never before. And you can start a business online for a few $100s and scale up from there and really make some things happen. The key is looking at the glass half full versus half empty. As much as the brick and mortar businesses appear to be attractive, I always look for ways to keep my overhead low. I didn't want to look important. I just wanted to have freedom. And that was my whole take on it. And that's what an online business can provide for you.
Absolutely. So looking at it in that regard, a lot of people say, well, you know what? I don't have enough money to actually get it invested. Like you just stated, hey, you can start off small, even when your vision is large. Absolutely. You know, you're starting with the end in mind. You know, you got to prepare the ground before the corn can be planted. You got to plant the seed, and what's contained in that seed is the ultimate vision, but you just might have a few $100s to get it going, and then start moving accordingly and start implementing some of those things that Brian was saying to help solidify and monetize whatever it is that you're doing, your credit worthiness. So now you're not using your money per se, you're using other sources of money by implementing those sources, getting your Dun Bradstreet, getting your DUNS number, you know, then you start moving towards getting that pitch deck put together. And so now you can start to, you know, outlet and other bigger funding sources as your business starts to reap the profits. But again, you know, I hear the ideas a lot of times. People say, well, you know, you start up a business today, well, it won't be profitable for the next 3 to 5 years. Well, I guess that depends upon the type of business that you're undertaking. Now, one other question I wanted to kind of shoot at you, B, since you're already talking about that. The gentleman asked, he says, can you start, well, somebody asked, you know, excuse me, if it was a young lady, I do apologize about that. But can you start a business with bad credit?
Yes, you can start a business with bad.
How can you start a business with bad credit?
Make sure that everything you're doing, that you don't need to use your credit if it's that bad.
Exactly.
You got some money, maybe you know you've got a sponsor, but if you're going to rely on bad credit, it's just not going to work. But I don't want that to discourage you, right?
Exactly.
Because credit can always be restored and repaired. That's the thing about credit. Some people allow credit to halt them, right? And they start to overanalyze. Then they analyze to the point they become paralyzed, right? And they don't make a move. So you got to be very careful of that. You can have a great idea and a lot of ambition and have bad credit. We all have been there. We're not sitting here, you know, I experienced having horrible credit before. It happened. But when I realized—
Brian, you never had bad credit, not you.
Yes, I did. I had credit before. Yes.
That's how you know how to repair that stuff, right?
I don't have bad credit now.
Yeah.
Great credit now. So that's why I'm able to teach credit and promote credit, because I have had the worst of the worst credit. And I know how that feels to be able to go somewhere and to be disappointed because you don't understand how it really works. You be going in somewhere, a dealership, or going to buy something, and it costs to finance it, only to find out you go in there and get disappointed, right? But the beauty about those disappointments, that you don't want to return to them, right? So you start to reach out, you start to get help. Not an ad over there where that brother saying, oh, we repair credit, or we have trade lines, or we can coach you on how to become credit worthy, because we need to be coached in that area as Black folks, because most of our parents didn't understand credit and they paid on time, but they didn't benefit as a credit worthy individual, right? So they buy the whole, they paid a mortgage for 30 years. And after the 30 years, you pay for the whole subdivision and you end up with this one parcel of land at the end of the 30 years, right? We're a little more intelligent than that now. We know that that's not the play. That ain't the way we play this now. That ain't the way we operate now. But again, being credit worthy is paramount in business. I recommend anyone that do have bad credit, you get in business, reach out to a credit specialist. You can reach out to myself for someone to coach you and help guide you along and start to build your credit and uplift you and empower you, right? It do not have to hold you back in respect to starting your business. You can still get started. right? They don't ask you your credit score to register your business. They don't ask you your credit score to get your EIN number, right? They don't ask you your credit score at Dun & Bradstreet, your personal credit. And remember, when you open up your business, your EIN number is new. That's brand new credit ready to be built.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Okay.
brand new credit on the business side now, right? Of course, you're going to need, when you're a new business, a lot of things that you may want to put into the business name, right, might require a cosigner. That's why oftentimes the individual will co-sign for the business until the business is able to own its own and operate on its own, and it does not need a co-signer, right? So sometimes you may partner with a partner that have great credit as you restoring and building your credit, right? So don't just go out and get a partner who got great credit and you still maintain this bad credit as if y'all had this mentality like, well, you know, his credit good or my credit good, mine don't need to be good. And a lot of people think like that. No, it's not okay for it to stay bad. Because you're going to definitely need it in the future. So you definitely want to take some time out, get with a professional, right? And get your credit restored and get coached on that. And don't feel ashamed about it. Don't feel bad about it, because 90% of us as Black folks did not have our parents or no one else in the community to sit down and talk to us about credit. I never had that conversation at home, ever had that conversation at home. I know I was loved, I was well taken care of, but when it came to business or when it came to credit worthiness, we just did not have that conversation. I didn't have that conversation until my adult life with other individuals, or being not credit worthy, so wasn't able to maintain or get some of the things that I wanted to do. But again, if you want to really have a great business structure, you definitely want to have your business credit in order, your personal credit in order, so you can be credit worthy.
Okay, and that's a good thing. And you know, fundamentally, there are different types of business entities. And when you're looking in terms of, you know, a lot of people look at exponential growth. They equate a lot of opportunities that are out there where you invest a little money, then you got to bring some other people involved. You know, when we look at the network marketing space, and I know, Greg, I mean, you have a ton of mastery in that particular field. And there was a couple of thoughts about multi-level marketing. Is that a viable business entity during these times where the pandemic is taking place and people are kind of locked in, and they have a lot of platforms on social media where people can get involved, and just by inviting other people, they get involved in a network marketing space? Is that a viable business model or structure to where people can get involved with now? Would you think that that would be an ideal situation for them?
Monetarily, unless you want to take it seriously. If you want to take it seriously, it can be viable. But the viability comes in the business education that you can receive. I firmly believe, I would tell any young adult or anyone that is new as an entrepreneur to get involved in the network marketing space as a rites of passage, whereby you're able to invest a small sum to learn what you need to learn existentially about business. Unfortunately, most people are opportunity seekers. They're not entrepreneurs. And the difference is, an opportunity seeker is someone that you can sell them easily. If they think they can make a quick lick real quickly, they'll jump in. And when they find out it's not that easy, they'll wait for the next hot thing that comes along, and they'll just be like frogs, jumping and jumping and jumping. But an entrepreneur has a clear vision, and they're harder to sell, and they're able to look at businesses and ideas and say, okay, how does that fit in what I'm currently doing right now? And is it worthy of my time to put it on my plate in order to propel me towards my ultimate vision? So if you treat it like a business, it can be very, very viable. And I would use as a rites of passage. And that's what I did. I stood in the back of the room. I was a wallflower. I invited some people, and this was years ago. Okay. I got to the middle of the room. Then I got to the front of the room as my team built. Then they had me get up and introduce someone because I was afraid to speak in front of people. So then I would introduce the speaker. Then I started doing the first half of presentations, then the second half of presentations, then the whole presentation. Then I started doing part of the training, then the whole training. Then I had to set up the meetings. I had to set up the room. Then I set up regionals, and then I held conference calls. Then I set up websites. So I started from the bottom and all the way up and saw the big picture. And during that whole journey, you learn so much about business because at the end of the day, your network is your net worth. I don't care what business you in, the whole world is network marketing. And that's what people don't understand. The whole world is, and the whole world is shaped in the shape of a triangle as well. The question isn't whether it's a pyramid. The question is, are you going to be on top of your own? And that's any business entity. So that's a long-winded way of saying, yes, it's viable on two fronts. The biggest viability, though, is the business education that you get. I would implore people that when I look at college and the kind of money that people invest in college, I learned more in that space than I did getting a 4-year degree. Okay. And from there, taking that, I was able to go and do other things from that business education that I received in the network marketing space from there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, network marketing is you do get certain skill sets that you don't get anywhere else, because, in order to propel yourself forward, there's going to have to be some self-improvement. You're going to have to build up some thick skin, so to speak, because you get over a lot of hurdles that kind of make a person fold their idea of business. Because a lot of people get network marketing and then they say, well, look, I can't sell people, but then you learn how to communicate effectively. And oftentimes you become an expert at edifying the expert, so to speak. You don't have to do all the talking. Let other people do the talking. Let the other people do the heavy lifting. But again, you acquire those skill sets. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, like, for instance, the gentleman was asking me about the mental fortitude and getting frustrated. You can't do even what Brian is doing in the massive scale that he's doing it if you don't have the mental fortitude and learn the skill set necessary. You need to learn how to sell. I don't care what you're dealing with. Your ability to sell is paramount. Learn how to sell something. If you're married, you have to sell your wife or husband to get with you. So you have to learn how to sell. It's okay to sell something. You just have to believe in what it is that you're doing, from that standpoint.
So that encompasses, again, your why, your vision, and find something that you can align yourself with. And I think for the most part in the corporate world or the corporate structure, a lot of people, they stop watering their dreams. They stop dreaming. They get stagnant. Because a lot of times they're frustrated. They don't want to be there, but they find themselves stuck in this thing, and they're not willing to take the risk to purge out, because it's going to keep you stuck. I mean, what caused either one of you at whatever point in your life to take it upon yourself? Now, I don't know if either one of you ever had a real regular job or you just created your own. But if you were ever in, because I do believe, Greg, when we met, you had just left a Fortune 500 or a Fortune 40 company, and we met on the road selling. Okay, that's how we met years ago, 30 years ago. But what was it that caused you to remove yourself from that hostage type of situation that you were in? How were you able to see that this particular structure or existence, you were just existing, but you really wanted to live?
Absolutely.
How was it that you were able to break free from that crust?
Well, first and foremost, it was a situation. If anyone saw the movie The Shawshank Redemption, that's how I felt, and I had to break free, out of that imprisonment. And so what ended up happening was I had to learn some things that I didn't know. And once I got involved in the network marketing space and I was with some of the best in that space, I was working at a Fortune 40 company, throughout the day. But at night, I was on my grind in that space because I wanted to break free. And I'm not, and this is my story. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna take a moment to share my story, because there is no one size fits all when it comes to building a business or the life that you lead. It's your own path. Brian can tell you how he does it. It doesn't mean you're going to have the exact same outcome, because Brian is the animal that he is. I'm getting ready to tell you my story. Hopefully you can find some inspiration from it, and maybe you can glean something from it. But I had gotten to that space, and I climbed up, and I got near the top at the top of several different companies, and got to making six figures with those companies. And that's why I was able to walk away from the corporate sector. But like I told you guys on the last podcast, I knew the online space was going to be huge, and I didn't want to be on the roads coming back home at 12 o'clock at night. I was driving all over the Midwestern part of the country, flying to the East Coast, West Coast, putting on major events, things of that nature, monetizing those events, the whole 9 yards. But it was a grind. It was almost as if I owned a job. Even though my residual was 5 figures a month, I still had to do things to maintain that. So what ended up happening was that I created a platform, a software platform, with a gentleman out of Canada, and we did a 50-50 split, whereby, talking about those 5 points that we're talking about, I franchised it out, whereby there are people that wanted to make money, in network marketing or online, but guess what? They didn't like presenting. They didn't like selling. So I said, that's a niche that I can get involved in. So I'll do the selling, I'll do the training, and I'll do all those things for them on a platform that I was able to go ahead and promote and sell up to $39.95 a month. So $40 a month. It was a 50-50 split. And we had thousands of people get on this particular platform. And all they had to do was just drive people to this particular funnel that I created. All right. I did all the training, all the onboarding and things of that nature. The other thing that I was able to do, every time we moved from one company to the next, I was able to dump more people on this membership subscription-based business, which is very, very key to all your listeners out there. You want to find a way to start some type of residual subscription-based type of reoccurring income. It's just a common sense thing. Bills are residual. Your income should be residual. So once you get your residual income 3 to 4 times higher than your monthly responsibilities, now you have your time back to scale and do some other things, okay, from that standpoint. And I got involved in high ticket, okay, where it wasn't just network marketing, where it was a $500 deal or a $1,000 deal. I got into some high ticket stuff where I was selling $3,500 to $22,000 digital products. And in a very short period of time, made $250,000 in 6 months doing that before we moved to some other things. Took that money and invested in some real estate and continued to scale. But that's my journey. And other people's journey may be entirely different. But along the path, whatever path you guys decide to take in building your entrepreneurial business, you got to keep your eyes and ears open to your calling, your breakthrough. It's going to be different than anybody else's breakthrough. And I think fundamentally, the problem that a lot of people have is they're looking for a one size fits all. Tell me, what's the magic bullet? How can I get rich? How did you do it?
Right.
It's not about that. It's about walking your path.
Absolutely. And that goes all the way back to what we started off with on the onset. Mm-hmm. You got to have your why. My why is my why. Your why is your why. Your business model, your vision is yours independently. However, can we use some of the same things that was able to get us over the hurdles and over the obstacles? Absolutely. Can I, if I fashion my shot after you and say every time I get to this corner, I always take this shot, but I'm hitting the backboard a lot. But you might say, well, look, why don't you just fashion your wrist this way, step out a little further, then go and take the shot.
Yeah.
So this is where mentorship and coaching comes in place. Right. Having the fundamental basics, realistic, executable goals. Everybody's journey, like you said, Greg, is different. But a lot of times the requirements are still the same, because you're going to have to put in the sweat equity. You're going to have to overcome the fears. And just like Brian says, you got to stay focused. Okay. In order to get the things in life that others have, you're going to have to do the things in life that others won't do. in order to get those things. So now you got to step out of your comfort zone, so to speak. Greg talked about starting off small at first, but having a cushion in which he was enabled to step away. He was in sales, or he worked with different Fortune 40 companies in the past, earned six figures, but it kept him burnt out. He was traveling here, there, and everywhere, doing all this type of stuff, but he was able to take that investment, infuse it into residual income.
Right.
And what he hit on, I don't know if you guys heard it, he said our bills are residual, which means that they keep coming month after month after month. And the example that I can give, and I'm sure you guys will concur, you know, when you look at defining residual income versus normal income, you know, your linear income, well, that breaks down like this. We work, then we get paid. Residual income is you work, get paid, get paid, get paid, get paid, get paid. That's the flip side of the coin. Okay.
Absolutely.
And residual income, no matter where it's at, you're going to have to create one of those funnels, because that's what enables you to get your time back. Now, does it have to be a multi-level marketing company?
No.
Perhaps not. Can you monetize a podcast or something online in this pandemic? Absolutely. But there's a skill set required in learning how to do that. So you got to pay the token, you know, at the gate when you get there. And that token is, are you willing to do what's required to get to the other side?
Right. If I
It's
can
not just gonna, it's not just gonna magically appear just because you got an idea. You gotta have to put in some sweat equity in order for that thing to manifest itself. And you gotta nurture that seed. You gotta nourish it with the proper food. You know, you are what you eat. If you're eating junk, then guess what? That's what you're gonna produce. And so is your business model. Now, I got a couple of more questions here that came in, and I'm really enjoying this, and I'm encouraging people to ask the questions. You know, we're gonna leave some content, you know, in the description. I'm sure Greg and Brian is going to give out information that you can reach out and contact these gentlemen, you know, because they're in the capacity now where they're offering, you know, some services like that for coaching and consulting and things of this sort. I mean, they put in the work. All right, it says here, when starting a business, how long does it take to see a profit?
It depends on the nature of the business and the overhead.
Absolutely.
You know, in the traditional sense, I mean, they say it takes 3 to 5 years. But I've been in some businesses where it was a matter of a week to turn the profit. So it just depends on you know, what's involved in terms of overhead and ROI based on the capital invested. Absolutely.
So you got to do your research on your business model. You got to look at the market. You got to see what's yielding, what's not, what's working, what's not. You know, a lot of times people are looking for low investment, high return. You know, sometimes we're looking for a pipe dream and we believe it, that, hey, I just put in $200 and, you know, I'm going to be making $10,000 a month. Now we hear the stories of a lot of individuals who was able to do things like that. But what we didn't understand is that they had access to individuals or resources that they were able to plug into. I heard you mention, Greg, how when you would shift from one platform to another, a lot of people don't know that you have to be strategic in your business, that you were able to hit the ground with momentum because you're able to come in with a larger group of individuals of like minds. Right. You know, as you begin to shift from one industry to the next. But here's a question for you, B. When you have great credit and debt to ratio, why is it that when you are applying for a loan, they place you at the higher end of the lower interest rates? Let me read that to you again. When you have great credit and debt to ratio, why is it that when you are applying for a loan, they place you at the higher end of lower interest rates?
Well, that's unfortunate, but a lot of institutes that offer credit tend to do that. I always recommend before applying to any institution for credit is to ask for the requirements. Ask for the requirements for what you're looking for, and make sure that you line up with those requirements, right? So and then when you go into these institutions, right, you want to build that report. And the purpose of building a report, and I'm just going to use a banker for example, right? Don't be in a rush to nowhere, because everything you do is about building a rapport with other human beings, right? Because the key sometimes is to make sure that they humanize you, even though you might come in overqualified, right? And then their goal is to sell money, right? Now they have guidelines that they have to follow and things that they have to obey by. But oftentimes, and I have heard this and seen this happen to certain individuals with strong credit scores, low DTI, go in to get a loan only not to get a loan, right? Because what we have to remember in the lending world, their goal is to just give us a car, a house, and some credit cards. Majority of Black people, that's their financial portfolio. The home, your mortgage, provided you have a job and you credit worthy. We'll give you a leased car, or you want to purchase it, we'll finance that. And we'll give you 3 to 4, 5, 6 credit cards, right? So that keeps you in the rat race. So the reason why it's so important to build these relationships with bankers, hedge funds, credit unions, etc., across the board. First, you want to understand the products that you're getting into. And you want to develop a relationship and a rapport with that individual. So A, you can be humanized, right? And let them know what you're set out to do, right? And making sure that they understand, which they do, that you qualify, right? Because now what has happened with a lot of the banks is that now they're not confronted with discrimination anymore. No banks. So they can decide if they want to do business with you or not, right? And no repercussion, none whatsoever. None whatsoever. So that didn't even the playing field. That made them decide who and what they want to do business and who they want to do business with, right? And a lot of time, us as a people, when we go in or come through the bank doors, they only expecting us to either make a deposit, cash a check, or you possibly want to refinance your house or get a credit card. Us coming in saying we want a business loan, we here to present a pitch deck and things of that nature, they're not looking for that. So that's why you start to build a relationship. You don't have to have tons of money in the bank to start building banking relationships, right? It's networking at its finest. So you want to build those reports. Start getting some understanding from your banking, because you know what your end goal and what you're trying to accomplish. That's why relationship building is very important with building a business, right? Because they play these type of games with us. But we need to know exactly what we're set out to do and how we're going to accomplish it, and making sure that we line up with the requirements if we're going into that bank. And that's what I would say to that particular question is make sure that you line up with it and you go in there requesting what you want because you qualify, right? So also, just to mention this, as I hit on, like a lot of banks is not required to do business with you anymore and will not get any repercussion as a result of that. They created this company where Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo funded a company called Early Warning.
Early Warning?
Early Warning. This is a company, you can look them up. This is a company out of Arizona, right? You go to their webpage, they look very familiar. They look very friendly and all that. But what they did, they pitched a business to these big bankers and said, hey, we can handle all of your online security, right? So you don't have Telecheck and all them no more. Remember those companies?
Yeah.
They got all them out of the way. Early Warning is the company. So what they do, for an example, you go into a bank to open up an account. When you open up the bank account, the banker there open you up, but then all your information goes over to Early Warning. Early Warning run your credit without you knowing, check on all your houses, check on all your finances, check on every check you ever bounced, every bad check you ever wrote, anything you ever done. And then they rate you based on risk level to the bank. And if you at a certain risk, the money you put in there, they're going to be mailing you back a cashier's check with a letter stating that we choose not to do business with you with no explanation. That's how this is done now. And this is what a lot of people need to understand. So a lot of them little matters that individuals have out there, and you want to start to really doing some major business, you got to clean up a lot of that. And once you get into that database, right, with that type of information on you, it's going to be difficult for you to get into a lot of the major banks to even do banking with.
Absolutely.
You see them find up doing bankers with a lot of credit unions who not signed up with Early Warning, right? TCF, banks like that, and other different banks that's in the market space, and you will have to start banking with them. But a lot of the bigger banks, Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, a lot of them, they all have subscribed to Early Warning, and they have funded them because they pitched that to them, and that's how that company works. That's how things works behind the scenes. So individuals can really understand how that works. And I know of some subscribers that's out there that's looking now that have experienced that. And they target individuals, especially if you've been incarcerated before. God knows if you did anything illegal with the banks, any type of issues, you're gonna have a difficulty opening up an account and establishing business with those particular banks.
Gotcha.
So
on top of that too, and that question that the person asked, another thing that you can look at as well is activity. You can have a great credit score, but they also look at how often do you play the game, you know, in terms of their risk. If you're not playing, you're just sitting on top of a nice credit score, but you're not actually playing the game, you're going to be up high. But if you're playing the game, using your credit cards and playing in the game, then you can also lower your interest rate as well.
Absolutely. And that's a very important part right there, Greg. And a lot of people get that because, of course, the Tax Source Group being in the credit repair business, people often come in and get their credit repair, also purchase trade lines and things of that nature from us, and then want to go directly out into the market and purchase different things. But like you say, they look at the credit report to see the activity, right? And they got softwares now that can analyze that again for risk factors, right? These are great minds that's in that space. And they have created systems to detect that because again, they're not trying to take no loss, right? So that's the reason why you need a business coach to coach you along the way so you can make the right decisions as you go through your journey. That's extremely, extremely important. You don't have to waste a lot of time with trial and error. We already made the mistakes. Majority of the mistakes that you're gonna make have already been made. So get you a business coach, right? Or a financial advisor, but someone that's gonna hold you near and dear because it's a lot of intricate and intimate details on that journey and information that you're gonna need to be coached so you can make the right decisions and you don't waste a lot of time. You know, that's just extremely important. Just like I was talking about your activity on your credit report, how to utilize credit. That's the key to credit. People often think just having a 700 score, 800 score. You can have an 800 score And this person with a 580 can go get more than you because they know how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to utilize credit. So don't get so caught up on score, get caught up on how to utilize credit to your benefit. Don't just fall in love with a score that's just sitting there. Because most people do that. And here it is, you sitting with this 760 and they want to prove me. Now you're a little heartbroken.
So it ain't in the possession of a thing, but knowing how to use it.
Knowing how to use it. That's
knowing how to use it. And that's what you got to have. You got to have that valuable information that if you don't know, then that's when you got to get humble and ask those who do, or at least make the effort to engage yourself with those type of individuals. Seek to get the information that's required, because those were some juggernauts. And I think, most people get it, because the thing is, a lot of times, we look at that, like you were saying, Greg, and the same thing you were saying, Brian, is, you get this credit score way up here, but you're not in the game. You're not creating a history so that when these investors or creditors look at it, they say, well, like you said on the onset, they want to give you that credit because they know that you're going to pay it back. You have a history of that. Yeah, it's one thing to get to the top of the plateau, but then you just sit there. You just sit there. Eventually, you're just going to fizzle out because there's no activity. Yeah. But even in getting money, even in having a successful business and looking at how the financial world as we see it today, we look at the value of the dollar. We see the different trends in terms of how the dollar is operating. Once people start to create a viable business entity for themselves, would it be wise for them to start looking at other sources of investments that they can infuse, let's say this dollar into, that's going to yield them a greater return for future? When you look at futuristically speaking, we got to be able to have vision to look further down the road. Most great nations and business minds, even if they're not there 50 years from now, they've planned out 50, 20, 100 years ahead when you really look at how they peel back the layers of that onion. So when you start, like we stated, with the end in mind, once you get money or have the possession of some sort of finance that now you can turn it into a wealth-bearing product or service, what ideally would you guys suggest would be some of the things that you may want to invest some of this capital into to create another form of currency if it shifts while we're riding down the road right now? If it shifts and that dollar falls, where are we going?
Well, I think most importantly is to diversify. If 07 and 09 didn't teach you that, you went through that era with your eyes wide shut. That was the biggest teacher of that time when the housing market fell. So everybody who had all their money in that one space failed, and a lot of them never returned. They never returned to the playing field. So you have to diversify, right? Do not be loyal to one income. Never. Ain't no income worth that level of loyalty. I don't care what it is. But however, do you have to study wealthy people's portfolio? This is your homework. Study wealthy people's portfolio. What did their portfolio consist of, right? Some people in the market, real estate, certain business that yield heavy cash flow daily, right, etc. So you have to really diversify your activity when building a portfolio. And again, that goes back to being coached, right? So when you're focused on building a portfolio, it makes you look at everything from a broader perspective, right?
Exactly.
And not just only focusing and concentrating in that one area to become narrow-minded in business. That's very dangerous in business, right? Because sometimes you might need your other businesses to support that business due to the fact that you have diversified, right? And you have other revenue coming in, it will allow you the sustainability that you need to move forward. But when all your eggs are in one basket, you at high risk.
Right.
You at high risk. So I recommend a lot of people that's out there that want to get into business, you definitely want to diversify, right? But again, you don't want to get stagnated to early on, you focusing on so many things, right? That you're not mastering the space that you're in. I think to definitely master the space that you're in. But as you start to turn a profit and you start to able to save money and it's time to reinvest in other things, you want to definitely start to think about diversifying and start putting that money in other businesses. Just like Brother Greg talked about, you know, it's a lot of online businesses out there that's doing extremely well. I mean, just really blows my mind because I know a lot of individuals that's in those spaces that's doing extremely, extremely well. And of course, myself as an individual who prepare a lot of taxes and do a lot of their books and get an opportunity to see what's going on firsthand. Firsthand. These are the people that you have to talk to as accountant, attorneys, tax preparers, people that's in the professional space that get an opportunity to look at a lot of data to advise you of great businesses to get into. Subscription-based business is the way.
For sure.
Period.
No
Because
doubt.
not only did it take you in business, but it create the residual revenue that you need, the sustainability to push you on. And it puts you in contact with a lot of people in a lot of different communities. Because at the end of the day, what real business is real and true information. Because it's so much that you can do with information, especially when you're in the database. You got to build a database. You got some companies that don't even have the individuals that they serve and properly information. So you can't even speak to your core audience. That's a problem in and of itself. So you definitely want to be able to collect that data, analyze that data, so you can offer more services, provide information, until regain and get clients as a result of that. So it's very, very important, again, to stay focused while in business and look at all your opportunities and explore them. And in business, again, you're never going to stop learning. You got to always be researching. That whole thing, everybody going to bed at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, no. Welcome to the entrepreneur world. You're going to be up.
Right.
You're going to be up because God lay heavy thoughts on your mind at night and on your heart. So on the side of my bed, I keep a pen and pad, calculator, and you got your smartphone and internet. Sometimes I have to wake up in the middle of the night just to start writing down ideas because I'm afraid I might wake up a little early and forget them. Right? So that's sometimes certain opportunities be born. Every living thing in existence has to be born. Even the thought has to be born. So in the middle of the night, if your mind going into labor, you got to get up and you got to get up and deliver that thought because this is God doing his greatest work is it during them times. And that's what most people in the terms of the ideas that they have received, if they get an opportunity to really step back and think about when did that idea come to me, you'll find it very fascinating, the time and place.
Absolutely.
Right. Right.
So it's important and people just have to stay focused. And again, we can't say so much more in terms of this episode, but get coached. Don't waste time. Don't rely on your own understanding. You're intelligent. Intelligent people are coached. Michael Jordan was coached. Mike Tyson was coached. Right? It don't take away your greatness, it just enhance it. Because anything great has to be coached. I'm coached. Brother Greg coached. Brother James Bay sitting here been coached. We all been coached And I love being coach. I love turning to my elders and to my people I look up to, my business coach, and ask for certain advice, or I get something that come across my desk I don't know. I welcome that. So I can reach out and say, hey, I got this. I'm do this. And boom, and get that download real quick and get right back to that business and took care of it. Right?
Absolutely.
Someone you can rely on in business. So
Right.
get your business coach.
No
Good
doubt.
deal.
To also to pick, thanks for that, Brian. I really appreciate, man. I'm getting a lot of nuggets from you, brother.
Absolutely.
And to piggyback off of the diversity piece, it's, you know, when you get some cash flow, I'm in the high cash flow. What I do, it's high cash flow, and not to brag, but fact, I'm so anti-paying bills that even my cars, I pay cash for my cars. I don't even believe in car payments. I don't have brand new cars. I got, you know, 2 Mercedes, a Corvette, got my daughter a Jeep Grand Cherokee, but they're paid for. But they're not brand new. A lot of times we want to look the part. So what we do is we take that money. I would invest some money into some, you know, duplexes, some multiplexes. 2007, 2008, it didn't hit me that hard because I didn't get into the real estate game for just flipping. A lot of people were holding on because they were in the flipping game and they got caught with their pants down. I always got into it from a residual payment standpoint. So I would diversify and start off with a duplex, if you will. I'm doing that with my daughters when in college, going to invest in a duplex. That's how I'm setting them up. They get a duplex while they're in college. And then from there, they're going to be able to rent it out and they're going to start playing the game from that standpoint as well. The other thing is cryptocurrency. There's something going on there. I don't claim to be an expert in that area, but I will tell you this, people, we got to start looking at that and paying attention to the digital currency space. In 2017, I had stumbled across it, but prior to that, someone told me about it, but my bandwidth couldn't really handle it. I didn't understand this blockchain jargon. I was like, I don't have time for it. But in 2017, we had to tokenize some things. And one of the businesses that I was dealing with, in order to buy this token, I had to purchase it with Bitcoin. So I had to open up a Coinbase account. You attach your bank account to it. And I just put in $400 to get this token. And so my $400 is sitting there in this Coinbase account. And then I get this notification 3 months later, it was sitting at $950. The money just sitting there. I said, that money don't do that. My money in the bank don't do that. So if you're just keeping your money in the bank, you're losing money. So when I saw that, that's what opened up my eyes to do a little bit more research into the Bitcoin. So you fast forward, I got into a Bitcoin opportunity. It was called Cloud Token. And it was a way for your money to get compounded on a day-to-day basis. That came, I made some quick money there, but that faded away. But what happened this year, even in March of this year, when COVID hit, Bitcoin went down, okay? It went down to $3,500 per Bitcoin, okay? My wife and I, we put money into that thing. Do you know it went up to 19,000? Now, you got to understand, like I said, I don't understand the whole dynamics of it, but as an insurance policy, I would suggest that you take some, get yourself at least, you know, some bit of Bitcoin to understand the game and how it works, because we're moving in that direction.
Exactly.
And the other thing that you need to understand that makes it so powerful from a social standpoint, the cryptocurrency space is for people to understand decentralizing money. If you know anything about our monetary system, it's centralized. Fractional reserve banking, the manipulation game that's in it, the ledger in cryptocurrency is wide open. There is no gimmicks. Everybody sees it out there. I would suggest you guys do some due diligence on that, but get you some Bitcoin as well. So diversifying some duplexes, multiplexes is my opinion. Also look at some Bitcoin and then obviously some businesses. I had one guy come to me, because I think like a bank as well. He needed a cash injection in one of his businesses. It was a cash kind of payout business. And so what I ended up doing is investing money, and rather than receiving my money back at interest, once I heard the kind of money he was pulling out, I said, let me be a silent partner and give me a percentage of the take on a month-to-month basis. And because he needed the money, he was willing to agree with that. And so these are deals that you'll begin to work with if you understand, you start relating to people that's doing some things out here in the marketplace. There's creative ways for yourself to build residual income.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that's key right there. I mean, being able to allow it to work for you. and also have the vision and forethought enough that if one thing fails, what may perhaps be the next space of currency. And it's always good to stay ahead of the curve,
Right.
you know, because the cryptocurrency space is a good space. I would suggest that to anyone. You know, you can start off small and just work your way, but like Greg was stating, understand the science behind it. You know, I think for the most part, a lot of people get overwhelmed with understanding different things that are new to them, you know, and so you're gonna have to get out of your comfort zone. You know, the traditional ways of thinking has only yielded you a traditional way of life. You know, you're only as good as your thinking. Your best thinking has gotten you where you're at today. So if you've been struggling for 10, 15 years, thinking just because you're going to go in early, you're going to dot all the I's, cross all, you're going to do all the jobs required, that you're going to get this 50-cent raise, that's going to take you to the promised land and allow you to live your dreams. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, you got another thing coming. We need to shift our paradigm. If you've heard anything here today that makes any sense, I would say seize it with everything you have, but you got to start with you in mind first. You got to have that why. And as we recap, we're reaching our 2-hour mark. You know, we're going to recap a couple of things that we saw or we heard here today that was a good turning points and good formats to conduct our affairs moving forward in business. And we wanted to get some cap-offs from Brian, and then we're going to get some cap-offs from Greg. Hopefully these guys are going to leave us some information in terms of how to contact them, how to reach out to them, because they're always looking at good business models, good business deals. You may know some people that know some people that know some people. Hey, look, you got two individuals here who are ready, willing, and able. Peel back the layers of the onion, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, if your skin ain't thick and you want to hear somebody elate you and not tell you the truth, I would rather somebody give me the naked truth than a dressed up lie. You know, and I know both of these individuals are students of that craft. You know, you would rather hear it straight up, come at you straight, be like, look, that idea is just an idea, you know, but you may want to shift your idea into something a little bit more realistically, something that's more attainable. You know, a lot of times we have these ideas, we have names for our business, you know, and things of this sort. Just the name alone is going to draw traffic away from your business. You know, we have to understand that it's not just for us, but for the good that it may be up to others. We want to get somebody to patronize it. So you have to consider that. So we're going to get some takeaways and we're going to get some pinpoints as to different business etiquette and different things that we need to do. We're going to hear from both of these gentlemen. Then we're going to wrap it up. They're going to leave us with some information. And I'll start with you, Brian.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you, Brother James Bay, again, as well as you, Brother Greg, you know, for just the information, the support, brother. It's just a great platform to be able to have these discussions and share this information. You know, it's just, I'm very grateful and humbled to be here and extremely relaxed. And I'm just full of gratefulness tonight, brother. And I'm thankful. And I just hope a lot of individuals out there who got an opportunity to take a look at this particular podcast and get the information, that the information is able to really resonate with them. And they don't just write down a lot of notes and things of that nature, but tomorrow they hit the ground running. They hit the ground running, because I think we share information in terms of how to set up a business, a lot of other different entities that you definitely want to connect to, right? So you can further that journey and make that ride as smooth as possible.
Mhm.
But again, in business, don't be afraid, again, to connect with others. Just don't do that. And if you need to partner with your business, again, remember about the pitch decks, right? The business
Pitch
plan,
deck. Mhm.
right? Pitch deck is extremely important when in business, right? Because this speaks for your business in terms of someone understanding your business, your mindset, the direction that you're going in, understanding why it need to be funded, what areas of the business need to be funded, right? And so you can hit the ground running. In business, when I first got in business, I didn't have a business coach. I didn't have anyone to share with me what to do and what not to do. So I paid by error. Error is very expensive. It's very expensive. So I recommend that you listen and definitely get a business coach, someone who's doing it or someone who have done it, and doing it well.
Exactly.
It definitely makes you get with someone that's active, someone that's really doing, not nobody that's on the sideline trying to give you a whole bunch of information. They're not active with it. Because the thing of business, if you're active in business and if you was in business, you're going to be active in it, right? Because that's the whole part of being in business, right? Is to empower, to build a legacy, and like Greg said, buy back your time. It is a such thing. I know it's difficult for a lot of people to wrap their mind around that buy back your time, but you can, and it feel good, and it feel good to work for yourself. But it's two different things: to create a business and to create a job, right? So if you're looking to create a business, the main ingredient for creating a business is getting out your own way, right? Now, if you want to create a job, stay in your own way. Stay in your own way, and you'll stay right there. So it's extremely important to know the direction that you want to go in. And hopefully a lot of this information has been of help and guidance for individuals who want to start and operate their own business and grow something successful that they're proud of. And I wish you all the best of luck in business. And again, my name is Brian Harvey, the owner and operator at the Tax Source Group. We offer multiple services in terms of personal and business tax returns. We offer credit coaching. We also sell seasoned trade lines to boost your score. And we have a wealth of information here. And a lot of individuals that work here at the Tax Source Group are people who do own their own businesses, have a great sense and understanding of businesses. We have mortgage backgrounds, real estate backgrounds, owning and operating other businesses, partnering with individuals. So it's a wealth of information there and a lot of know-how. And on top of that, we just have become better coaches in life of business because we want to see people succeed. And that's very, very important. And that's why I stress that so much for individuals to get coached. Get someone who's doing it, and hopefully they're able to coach you and make some of your business. And I wish you all the best. And again, I appreciate all this, James. Really do, brother.
Well, I appreciate you, Brian. I mean, it's just a privilege to have you here, because, the show is the blueprint, how to get it done. And it's best being heard from individuals that's actually doing it. It's one thing when you read a book about individuals. It's one thing when we plug in and we see Les Brown and Zig Ziglar and Anthony Robbins and Grant Cardone and all the other successful individuals who a lot of times we use as sources of information. But it's so wonderful when you have that same mindset that's been incorporated into individuals of like minds who have the same upbringing, conditions, situation, and circumstances that you have, that's relatable, that you can hear from. So that's why I find that this is so key, because here it is, we're talking to people. This is not just a book we're reading on the shelf. We're talking to the authors of the book. We're talking to the people that went through the landmines, who overcame those hurdles and obstacles and created something from an ideal, but they had a reason why. They envisioned themselves. They gave up tools and juggernauts as to what got them there. It wasn't just sheer willpower. It was ability, skills, know-how. And where they didn't know things, they weren't too puffed up that they wouldn't humble themselves at the footstool of those who do know. Someone who can coach, develop, and groom them. Okay, someone that can take them to a higher level so that they can enrich themselves. So that's what I love best about it. And Brian, you definitely hit the nail on the head. You brought some things that I think a lot of people can take away with them with that pitch deck. Not just the pitch deck, but the professional end of building your business model, having it credible. How to get your DUNS number, link yourself with Duns and Bradstreet, get that credit booster program, ask for a representative, go through the process and all the in-between things that's required. I'm sure you got that ebook coming down the pipeline, but still they should be able to reach out and get a lot more coaching or direction with purpose according to whatever business model that they're using, but being able to build that business credit and in turn be able to utilize it, whereas now that entity has a life of its own, okay? And you have an independence from that, whereas it's moving on its own, okay? So I definitely appreciate you being on the platform. We're looking forward to more dialogues like this and engaging with different business ventures that we're embarking upon, because we want to bring something to the platform, with actual proof, footage, showing how things are getting done. And so that's another thing that the All CNI is going to be engaged with, okay? So I'm looking at some other things on the chat here, but thank you again, Brian, for your, time, your patience, your knowledge, and willingness to be able to, reciprocate that to the audience and allow the audience to engage with you even after this podcast is done. And, I got my man, Greg Baldwin here.
I appreciate you, man.
And one of the sharpest tools in the shed that I know, and I like to bring out the sharpest tools in the shed. And these brothers are razor sharp. They're laser focused. And Greg, you can tell it better than me.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, James and Brian. I got some nuggets myself to this evening, man, and I'm looking forward to us doing some things. In fact, the light bulb kind of went off on me even this evening on some things. And so we'll be chopping it up and maybe be something that'd be beneficial for the community at large as well. But I said it last podcast, you have three currencies: your time, your money, and your knowledge. And when you're in need of one of those things, use the other three things to get it. And I've had some incredible mentors, if you will. And you guys see behind me, I got mentors that don't even know they're my mentors. Better believe that I went through every single one of the books behind me. I applied them in my life. It's not how many books you get through, but how many books get through to you. And that's what's important. And so applying the information, I'm a student of life. And that's what I want to encourage all of you guys to understand. Whatever business that it is that you decide to do, make sure that it's the prototype for 3,000 just like it. Provide that consistent value to your customers, your employees. Make sure it can be done by the lowest skill level person. Make sure it has impeccable order, and you have the training manual of how all the work gets done. If you take those 5 points, I promise you can apply it to any business out there, because I've done it with my businesses that I have in the online space. And I guarantee you, if I was to look at Brian's business, it has those exact same things in place as well. And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing, because I'm shifting and changing as well with the times because everything is moving online. And so branding is going to be very, very important. And I'm doing something that's going to be a lot of fun. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I have the Gentleman Thug podcast, and I named it Gentleman Thug for a reason, because I like to take words and I like to change the narrative of them, because we live in a society where somebody else tells us what something means. And I don't like labels. I want to redefine it for what it means. So Thug stands for the holistically unique gentleman. And so the reason why I'm creating this podcast platform is because when I look out into the public and when I see what's on the media, I'm having a different experience in life than what they're portraying on TV. And I wanted to create a platform by where we can have dialogues with people like James, like Brian, and those of you that's out there that are unique in nature, that we can talk about world events, business, entrepreneurship, and give it to them straight, no chaser, the way in which we do it. And so that's what I'm looking to do. And with that brand, then obviously you can scale, and there's merchandise and things of that nature. So that's an idea that I'm dealing with just for some fun, not necessarily to make money, but to use what I know in order to share with the masses. And so for those of you that want to reach out to me, my email address is greg@smarterthanmoney.com. That's how I live my life. I'm smarter than money. And if you're interested in learning how to become smarter than money, then there's some things I can share with you. I'll be more than happy to share those things with you if I can help in any kind of way. But James, thank you for the opportunity. And Brian, thanks, man, for what you share with us this evening. Dun & Bradstreet, I'm gonna look into that for sure. I appreciate that, brother.
Absolutely, brother.
Well, Greg, again, thank you, man. It's just an honor and a privilege, just to be on the platform and we're talking in this capacity. And that's what it's all about, each one reaching one, don't know one person has all of it, the virtues are allotted to various stations, so we got to all be employed according to our merits, and it's always good to be able to have those individuals in your midst that you can reach out to. And, I know we had kind of lost communication for a little while there, but you know what? It was business as usual. I didn't doubt for one moment, exactly what's going on in your space. I already know, and so it's a beautiful thing. And to be able to have you as a source, to the listening audience, to be able to engage them and partake in their questions and hopefully perhaps maybe some coaching and development along the way, because these gentlemen are open for that. This is moving in a lot of different spaces as we speak now. We're just at the tip of the iceberg. But what I did want to kind of bring in a fact, because a lot of the information that was shared with you, Greg, the 5-point plan, the other things that were shared with you, Brian, and also when we're talking about, the initial setup of the business, identifying what type of business structure it is, so when you go down, you assume your business name, you get it registered, your tax ID, and then all the other things that come along with that. And when Brian was talking about the pitch deck, that was key, in getting it funded, so ideally with everything that's taking place in this pandemic, I was able to identify, a lot of things when people say, hey, I want to start a business, but a lot of businesses are not really viable because of what we're faced with now. So a lot of times you have to shift and be able to modify for change. If you're not willing to shift gears and modify for change, then you might not be suited to really develop a business model. Because if you think it's just going to be one way and that's it, times change, the demands change, the goods and services change, but you have to have an idea that can gel and move about. You got to have room for improvement. Now, there are a few industries. I'm going to name off a few. Number one, and there's 10 of them. I'm going to name off a few, and then you guys might want to jump in if you feel anything on it, and then we're going to call it quits. But the audience is still engaged. The e-learning industry, okay? Oh. That's powerful right now, the e-learning industry, because right now people have time to be at home. A lot of people lost their jobs. So that now a lot of people are at home. And then there are a lot of people that still have jobs, but are looking to, move up in that requirement. So a lot of people are trying to gain knowledge at home or modify what it is that they currently know. So e-learning is a good business right now to be involved in online. Medical products. Right now, your mask, your hand sanitizer, anything that's dealing with helping people with this current pandemic that's in place. Medical supplies or being able to get those medical supplies to people. That's another good business model. Think about how the mask thing just boomed. And now, you got people with all sorts of different designs on masks. First ones out the gate were able to eat first. Now there's still food out there to eat. Yeah, but what is it that you're going to bring different to that space?
No, let me speak. Can I speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
When I look at stuff like that, that tends to be more of a trend in my mind, from the standpoint, which is like, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you get in first mover's advantage, it's almost like flipping a house, so to speak.
Yeah.
But in terms of long-term money, the long play, I don't know about that. But in the short run, yeah, I think that may be a good one. Okay.
Yeah, short run. It's a sprint. That ain't the long run. That ain't the relay. But, it might jump you out there. You know what I'm saying? You might get a quick hit and then it fizzle out. You know what I'm saying? But that's
nothing wrong with a quick hit.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, man. Being able to follow the trends.
That's the key. That's the key to business. It's timing.
Yes.
Timing.
I worked on a project with some guys when Obama first ran for office, and we created a keepsake, being the first Black president, and that was a gamble, but you could bet a lot of money when you're able to serve something at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean that people are engaged in that moment, in that time, and they're ready to receive? So that was a very, very successful venture. But that venture had all to do and only to do with time.
With time.
With time. So at certain times you can do certain things, and that's the key to business, being to identify the right time, because even the truth have to be told at the right time to be effective. So
timing is critical.
Yes, timing, the right timing. It's time to plant the seed in the soil, and it's a time not to.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So the key is just having that watchful eye and that understanding, and that comes with wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to plant the seed at the right time so you can get the proper harvest.
Absolutely.
Right? That's once again, that's being coached. That's being coached from veteran eyes, people who overstand. It's a lot of people that may understand, but if you truly want to win, you got to get with people that overstand what you're trying to do. So have experienced a lot of ins and out, understand certain industry, understand business in and of itself, and they have their finger on the pulse of it, right? Okay. So they're extremely focused. So it's a difference in focus and laser focus, right? At this particular junction in my life, I'm in this laser focus mode, which means get it done.
Get it done.
Yeah. Get it done. Get it
Absolutely.
done. I sleep when I die.
There you go. There you go. Don't not come to a sleeper but a dream.
Right. We about to do this. So, ain't all stones gonna be unturned. All bones gonna be shaken. So we got to get up. We don't need that much rest like people do. And the pandemic is just a big excuse for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I need to get some more rest. You need to wake up. That's what we need to do.
Everybody got something. Everybody been had something.
I just met Brian, but his name from now on is the Terminator.
Okay. All right. Let me get through this list, and I'm gonna get on out of here more. The supplemental industry. People want to be healthy, so the supplemental industry has always been a kind of a scaling type of industry. It's just that it's scaling a little bit more now because people are concerned about health. People are concerned about respiratory issues and things of this sort. So supplemental industry, delivery services are in huge demand right now. You know, so a lot of people are jumping on delivery services because people are at home, people are not getting out. So other people are doing the work. So delivery services, in-home entertainment industry, you know, people are creating new platforms and content for that. You know, people want to be engaged. People, you know, sitting at home bored, you know, so the online gaming industry, you know what I'm saying? Casinos and things of that sort. You know, online dating is becoming a big industry now, or any kind of platform that connects people with people, because now people are kind of isolated. A lot of people are lonely. You know, some people just need somebody to talk to because their job was their relief or release to be able to socialize with individuals. Now people are forced to be with themselves. And some people don't like being with themselves. They need to have that type of content. Software, of course, anything that's going to help people, again, to connect and work remotely or connect with other people. Software, I know that Greg, you created a software company as well. You know, so that's been working well, or it had worked. Yeah, it's still working well. And another thing is supermarkets. People are overindulging right now. They're buying a lot more than they need. You know, some people are just grabbing up things in abundance because they're buying stuff out of fear of it running out, fear of food running out. Well, you know, supermarkets. Another thing, lastly, you might be surprised, is cleaning services. A lot of people are looking for professional cleaners to come in, clean their houses and things of that sort. So these are just different things that to get you to thinking. You know, if a lot of people are thinking, well, I want to do this type of business. Well, you have to understand, with today's times, is that real viable? We don't know how long this chaos is going to continue, but as long as it's present before us, we got to maneuver in what we have in front of us and find how to get the milk up out of it. Okay, right. It's right here in front of us. Okay, we still got to eat. We still got to survive. So now it allows you to utilize more of your creativity to be better. Now, you know, with that being said, brothers and sisters, I do appreciate everybody that's listening in to the content. Please continue to follow the All CNI. We have another couple of shows that we do up under the Build a Nation Network. We have that's going to be Wednesday, December 2nd, Universal Love. And they're going to be talking about staying on the path, you know, and following the straight way. You know, you're going to have a couple of sisters, the Grand National Secretary of the Moore Science Temple of America, Sister Imore Bay. We're going to have Sister L. Berry Bay. And that's going to be some good information, you know, some wholesome, spiritual, uplifting information. Also on December 3rd, you got Girl Talk, Real Talk, Moorish Talk. You have, it's hosted by Sister S. Johnson Ill and Sister N. Greer Ill. And as a matter of fact, this sister, she does a lot of the behind the work for the All CNI. And they're going to have Sister Imore Ill, who's an acting chairperson there at Temple 25 in Detroit, Michigan, and Brother Davis Bay, who's also a member of Temple number 77 in, I believe it's in Maryland. And but they're going to be talking about the pandemic. Both of these individuals are, I know Sister Imore Ill, she's a registered nurse or she's a paramedic. And the other brother, he provides a lot of medical services for homeless and things of that sort. So they're going to be talking about different things to keep people healthy, you know, during this pandemic, what to look out for and things of this sort, or different things that we can do to, in fact, stay safe if that's what we are part of, that particular mindset. But again, we're going to revisit the All CNI. I do appreciate everyone for plugging in today. Brian, I don't know if we actually got your email address and number of contact information. Could you just give that out?
Sure. I have a toll-free number, 844-272-2344. Again, that's 844-272-2344. My email address is bharvey@taxsourcegroup.com. Again,
absolutely. So again, gentlemen, I do appreciate everything that was shared here. And we're going to be looking forward to engaging ourselves in some higher affairs and doing things that's going to be able to help tie in to building the legacy that we truly are a part of. And again, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the listening audience for plugging in. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing you guys, on the other side.
On the other side. Thank you.
All right, brothers.
Take care, people.
All right.